The Hawaii Credit Union League would like to welcome you to Developing a Foundational Digital Strategy. My name is Sandeep Kapoor, and I'm an educator with Digital Credence. The Hawaii Credit Union League would like to recognize FIS for sponsoring this education. So let's get into developing a foundational digital strategy. And as I start the presentation, I'd like to share with you a question that a really good friend of mine, this gentleman is the CEO of a credit union in the Southeast, and he asked me, what does digital first mean? He asked the same question of many members of his team. And what he said was, many times whenever he brings this up, most people first start thinking about how many people can I put on the project to solve the problem. Whereas really, when you talk about digital first, it should be, what can you do digitally to solve the problem, reducing the dependence on people to try to do more. Think about this. Very simply stated, I have bird feeders in my backyard. I use these bird feeders to attract birds. To attract my birds, I need seed. I need these birds to feel safe, and I need these birds to tell other birds. Start with your digital mantra. Your digital mantra is all about attracting consumers, engaging these consumers, and then converting these consumers into members so you can serve them effectively. The key principle is keep them engaged, because if you keep them engaged, not only will they do more with you, but they will also tell other consumers, just like the birds told other birds. From a digital services perspective, it's not just about having a pretty website, about making sure that we are mobile responsive, about ensuring that we have SEO and SEM all chalked up. What we've got to think about is functionally, can our member open their account digitally? Can I take care of a loan online? How much of the decisioning can I automate? What about the fulfillment of that request? And finally, how do I keep serving that member all the time, 24/7? This is a true litmus test about how digitally ready we are, or how digital first we can be. Finally, think about our digital roadmap. For starters, we need to make sure that our digital site can do the basics, but also support other channels. The second big thing is, what can we do? What all do we need to audit to improve to make sure that we are 100% digital? This essentially means that we set up a digital branch that can function without much intervention. And I say without much intervention because keep this in mind, as you grow, you will learn. And as you learn, you will realize that you do need human intervention, which means we have to bring together the contact center to try to serve those consumers that are struggling, or our systems that are struggling, in order to drive that efficiency. Our ultimate goal from a roadmap perspective is to make sure that we deliver omni-channel effectiveness, because that is what is going to drive our continued and future success. The second key element to remember is that our focus should be on members and journeys. And at a high level, let me tell you that there are 5 types of journeys. We have the ability to open an account. Our members approach us to make sure that we can finance their vehicle needs. We help them put a roof over their head. They talk to us about life, which might be insurance, vacation, retirement, wealth management, college savings. And of course, we also offer business services. One key important aspect about business services is that there are many people who have full-time jobs, but they also are participating in the gig economy, or they've got that small business that they've started. So what we've got to do is make sure we have a plan to address all the way from accounts, automobile, home, life, and business. And when we think about this, think of the goals of what our members want. They want it to be easy, intuitive, speed. It's about delivering on a good user experience. They want to use biometrics. How many of us still depend on a password to get into our mobile device? We expect to touch it, look at it, speak to it, and for the device to recognize us, and we know that is extremely secure. That's what the consumer expects from us. And finally, as we interact and communicate, we need to assure them that the job is done, or that they're getting some value out of it. That's important. If we want to drive step-by-step success here, we have to think in terms of mapping the process. So let's pick one example. Let's say I need to open, talk to you about a car loan. If I'm talking to you about a car loan, where do I start my application? How much do I finish off that application? What happens next? Let's walk through that process, map that process out, and start seeing how much of that can I do digitally, and where am I dependent on other channels? Where am I dependent on internal resources, external resources? We need to write it out. And as we write it out, we're trying to simplify the process as much as possible. Part of the simplification could be that you approach the member and say, hey, would you like to restart your application? Or are you an existing member? Here, let me pre-populate the information for you. Let us also look at not asking them questions where we already have those answers. We got to make it more effective. And keep measuring, keep improving. That's how we begin our journey as far as solving for these consumer or member journeys in order to deliver success to the member that we are serving. What is journey mapping? Journey mapping is simply the fulfillment of an entire task. And what we've got to do as we think about our journey mapping is we start with requirements, which is I need to fill out a form to open an account. In order to open the account with you, I need to provide you with some basic information. The basic information is my name, my social security number. I need to provide you with this information. But then what you can do is you can come back to me, authenticate me, validate who I am, and potentially present back to me that, Sandeep, you need to verify your address. You need to verify a little more. I've got questions, things along those lines. We've got to automate that process to speed it up. And once we've done that, the entire process of decisioning, deciding, fulfillment, signatures, all this needs to be streamlined. Can you allow your member to open an account in less than 5 minutes? Can you let them open it on a mobile device? That's part of what we have to think through as we map our journeys. And do not just think about the digital channels, because one of our objectives is how do we make sure that our other channels are capable of driving these journeys? So think of this. I use another financial institution's card at one of your ATMs. I put the card in, and what I'm essentially doing is I put the card in, you offer to waive my transaction fee if I provide you with my mobile number. Or perhaps you tell me about this great CD rate, or you talk to me about that credit card that you have. You talk to me about the tokenization convenience that you offer to your members. If I could start my application on your ATM, which means you've captured my name from the bin, you now get me to put in my social, perhaps put in my mobile number, the process starts there. Could we then continue this by sending me a text, giving me the opportunity to connect online via my mobile device, complete the application? Let's assume I run into a challenge. Can I not push a button to be connected to an expert who can guide me through what needs to be done? If you think this is not possible, just for a moment, look outside our industry. Look at the airline industry where everything has been turned into a digital device. So much can be done on our mobile phone, including making the call to a customer service representative and them knowing exactly where you are, and also you having the ticket on your phone where you transact with that airline. Make journeys work across channels, enforce digital efficiency, reduce those manual steps. And do read this article on journey mapping. It's been published on CU Insight. It provides step-by-step detail on how you should use your own team to map, drive, and make these journeys more effective. Once you start the relationship with a member, the entire focus should be on engagement. We talk a lot about onboarding. I break this process of onboarding into three parts, which is let's onboard everybody that is net new. Someone who has just joined our financial institution. Let's talk about loan boarding, because we do so many loans, but what we've got to do is talk and connect with that member about the loan. And let's put a strategy together to reboard all those members who we've got relationships with, but we've not been able to connect with them digitally. Typically, I hear things like, oh, we've got a 90-day messaging stream where we remind that member about who we are, what we do, things along those lines. I hear magical words like 222, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. I hear formulas like that. But let's think about it from a consumer's perspective. When you transact with a financial institution, what do you really want to know? For starters, you want to know that you've made the right decision. You've made a good decision. You want to know you're in good company. You want to be welcomed. And part of that welcome package should include for you pertinent account details and information, all summarized exactly what you need, where you need it. That's step one. Step two, make them feel good. Give them those relevant testimonials. But when you put that there in front of them, do not make it about the financial institution. Make it about the impact or the difference you've had in the life of the consumer that you serve. Bring that up. The third aspect is remind that member about what else you do, what else you provide as a financial institution. And whenever you do that, do remind them that you are not only a full service financial institution, but you are reliable. You're insured by the NCUA. You want them to feel good in that zero moment of truth. And you do want to know how you treated them. Ask them for that feedback. But as you ask them for feedback, do not make your interaction long. Keep it simple. Ask them 2 to 3 simple questions. On a scale of 1 to 5, how did we treat you? What else could we have done? Would you like us to contact you? Or we are going to contact you to talk to you about your feedback. Finally, whatever you do, remind them that you work in their best interest. You're trying to do as much as you can to serve them effectively. Bring them in either in person or digitally or by phone for that financial checkup. There are financial institutions that bring their members in, but there are also these financial institutions that have started providing back to the member advice based on digital facts, facts about that member, facts based on what that member wants. And there's a lot that can be done to take that next step. It could be that your member has downloaded an app and they want to talk to you about their debt. How do they come out of it? Or that member has talked to you about specifics about their goals, their objectives, where they are, in what stage of their life. Can we not come back to them with precise ideas on what can be done even better? Remember, focus on engagement. And it's not just about onboarding, it's about boarding these folks correctly for every new loan and reaching out to all of those that we have transacted with in the past to reboard them effectively. Finally, for us to work well in this digital first environment, we need to redo our blueprint. And when we think about redoing the blueprint, I want to present with you with an architectural diagram that I drew in the early 2000s. I want to say the very early 2000s. And if you think about it, this is what we have. We have these channels, we have these systems, and all of these channels and systems, internal and external, are pursuing the member. What can we do to make sure that we erase this channel conflict? What can we do to ensure that we are coming up with one architecture that is supportive of what that member wants? Think of it from the member's perspective. I've already talked about the phone, the mobile device being so useful and effective in whatever that member is doing and transacting with. What can we do to make sure that the intuitive experience the member gets with our app, our connection, is the same as they get from other brands? When you have to download a third-party app, do you have to call that third party to ask them, how did my install go? Or how does this work? It's intuitive, it's easy. So our strategy should focus around an API strategy that allows them to connect with us and connect what they want to do with us seamlessly. We are headed towards an era of open banking where we should be able to transact with the member and allow the member to seamlessly touch these other points, which may include not just other financial institutions, but also include other merchants, other places they transact with, and bring it all together. Think about how credit card companies that are traditional have suddenly leveraged the credit card into a tokenized mobile device and converted that tokenized mobile device into an account. Think about what Apple did with their card, the launch of their credit card, the launch of their phone, and their ability to interact and connect. We're headed towards open banking. Many say we are already there, but what's restricting us is all those connectivities and things along those lines. The third big aspect is security. Security not just of the data, but security of the transactions and ensuring that the consumer, the member you served, feels comfortable about every single transaction that takes place so that they understand and they're in the know as to what is happening, why it took place, so they don't have to come and call and check. Because the minute they have to come back to check, call, they've got questions, we run into a challenge there because we now need people to resolve those issues. We also have to do this correctly so we scale. We need to learn to scale effectively so we are not just serving 4 people, 5 people. I mean, think about this. Take a look at your entire base. What is your largest branch? Think about setting up digital as your largest branch that is going to work 24/7 and it's going to continue to serve members 24/7. The final aspect to think as you think about this digital blueprint or putting that digital layer on top is, what do you do about agility? How do you innovate? How do you make sure that you can keep adding functionality to what you are providing to your consumers, to your members, so you do it correctly, you do it effectively. These are the things you need to think about. But keep the beginning of what I discussed in my presentation in mind. We have to simplify. We have to keep our focus on attracting the consumer and serving them effectively. Start with journeys, but start with introspection and a review of seeing what it is we do for our existing members. Take care of the member in hand. Take care of that bird in hand, because that's where it starts. We take care of that person, and that person tells other members, and they do more with us. Digital first, build that foundational digital strategy. My sincerest appreciation to both the Hawaii Credit Union League for bringing all of you together, and to FIS for sponsoring this education.